My guest today is Christopher Maher, a former U.S. Navy SEAL who has dedicated his post-military life to understanding and healing the toll that intense physical, mental, and emotional stress leaves behind. After years of pushing his body and mind to the limit, both as a child and in the teams, Christopher realized that traditional toughness alone doesn't heal the hidden wounds of trauma. Drawing from his own journey, he began developing powerful methods for transforming stress and unlocking the body's true potential. His approach is rooted in traditional Chinese medicine and the universal healing Tao system, and he integrates ancient wisdom with modern scientific principles to create what's now known as the True Body Intelligence System. His system has become a secret weapon for NCAA, professional, and even Olympic athletes, helping them increase performance, eliminate stored stress, and achieve a level of inner peace most people never reach. Today, he shares how emotional health, somatic healing, and nervous system regulation can change not only the lives of veterans, but anyone carrying invisible weight from the past. Let's welcome to the show, Christopher Maher. Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Hey. Alive another day. It's a good day, right? It's sunny.
Absolutely.
I'm in Southern California. The weather's nice and cool, and I'm happy to be here talking to a football fan.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
man. We had a good conversation before the recording. It's good to talk to somebody that follows teams, not just when they're doing well, and then the rest of the time not watching.
Yeah, I mean, I've been an Eagles fan since the 70s when they sucked.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I'm just stayed on board, but I'm just loyal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like the Sixers are terrible. You know, they've had all the opportunities in the world. Penn State football and James Franklin and his poor decision making when it matters most in games. You just have to stick to your teams and eventually hope that they find a way to win. And it's so nice being an Eagles fan now because they're so consistent. But I'm sure at some point I will be looking at, 4 and what's that, 13 seasons again at some point. But for now, I'm happy to ride the happy train.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are inventors right now, inventing the tush push,
The brotherly shove.
The brotherly shove, absolutely, man.
Dude, did you see that episode with on late night with what's the guy Jim on the Jimmy Fallon show, and then Saquon Barkley, they ask him about the tush push, and he's like, "Well, I'm the pusher of his tush." It was really, really funny. That was I think it was the night they won the Super Bowl.
I had not heard that. That's funny.
Yeah, it was good.
So, well, let's dig into a little bit of your background, man. What brought you to the Navy?
What brought me to the Navy? I went to a boarding school in Hershey, Pennsylvania, named Milton Hershey School, and my mom had committed suicide when I was 7, and I was within about a week. I was in the foster care system. And I was living, I was actually kind of happy. I was with Charlie and Kitty Evans. They were great foster parents. I had a new set of siblings and going to school and just enjoying my life. And then before I knew it, my grandmother was picking me up and driving me up to Hershey, Pennsylvania to be indoctrinated into Milton Hershey School. And if anyone doesn't know Milton Hershey School, has the largest endowment of any institution. It owns 51% of the stock of Hershey Foods Incorporated and tons of other companies. It's basically a world conglomerate when it comes to energy and food. And the campus was 10,000 acres. And while I was there, I was an athlete. I ran track and field and cross country and swimming and gymnastics. And one of my buddies that I was really close with, a guy named Mark Riggleman, I went into the basement at his house and they had a biannual magazine about SEAL training in the SEAL teams. And as soon as I picked it up, on the cover was like 6 boat crews running down the beach with telephone poles on their shoulders. And, being a runner, an endurance athlete, I was looking at that like, yeah, I think that's what I need. I could tell that they were going to challenge me.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed that. I had just dropped out of college recently. I had a business that I started, a sandwich shop called the Hoagie King, that I walked away from because I was like, this is boring. And I don't want to keep getting up at 4:30 in the morning, driving to Pottsville, Pennsylvania to pick up cold cuts, cheese and meats and bread and tomato and lettuce and onion, and bringing it back here. Like, I'm still young. Like, I'm
Yeah.
19 years old. Like, I want to have fun. And, I want some kind of adventure. And I was the type of kid in school where I was paying attention with my right ear, but I was looking out the window all the time and fantasizing about what I wanted for a life. And when I saw that magazine, it just seemed that everything fell in line and I could sort of make it work with all of the goals that I had in mind. And I looked at SEAL training even before I got there as a rite of passage. And it wasn't easy, right? A lot of guys come through SEAL training and they get through the program pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I ended up being diagnosed with probable epilepsy. And
Mm.
that's a mandatory discharge from the military by a doctor named Dr. Catron. And so I had to go through all the hoops you need to jump through to get back into SEAL training and to prove that his diagnosis was false. And I did that, and that took a while. And then I had an unfortunate accident where I fell off the slide for life, which I probably fell, 30, 32, 34 feet
Wow.
into the ground. As you know, you're approaching terminal velocity.
Yeah.
And, I ended up with some ankle injuries, and then I got pushed back, and I eventually made it through the program. I had an instructor that was pissed off at me without warrant and wanted to make sure that I didn't make it through SEAL training. Senior chief, well, I won't mention his name. I won't give him any credit. But he was a pain in my ass. And in the end, I got through, made it to the SEAL teams, got my goal, and, had my rite of passage. It was good for me emotionally. I
Yeah.
think it was good for me mentally. I think at some point, a young man needs to know that he is a man, and whatever he wants to make happen in the world, he can do it as long as he's willing to apply diligent effort and be consistently focused towards his goal.
Yeah. Yeah. By far, there isn't any other school in the military. And I'm including all the special ops out there, all the training schools. I would say SEAL training takes the highest amount of resiliency that you have to have coming into it. Understanding not just the mental aspect of what part of what these trainings are. That aspect is within the Ranger community, the SF community, and the SEALs. They'll play these mind games to see how do you handle failure and how do you come up. Sometimes if you're young, they'll even just not select you to see if you're willing to come back and go through it all again.
Yeah, and I had that.
Yeah, it is a very physical, but it is also extremely mental as well, and for good reason, because once you're on a team, your missions and everything are not going to be ordinary, normal missions. You're going to need that ability to be able to say, hey, we're behind, but let's figure out how to win this and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think they need to know, and what's interesting and unique about SEAL training is they need to know that when things suck, it's really cold, it's really wet, somebody beside you is dead that you care about, that you're not going to throw in the towel.
Yep.
You're going to keep moving forward, and you're going to figure out a way to complete the operation and get home
Yep.
to your loved ones. And they need to put you through the ringer. And the number one tool that they use there is, well, two tools: complete physical exhaustion coupled with freezing your tail off in water that's 53 degrees, 54 degrees, 56 degrees for hours at a time.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's easy to build endurance into the body, but I think it's difficult to build endurance into the body, into the mind, when your body is in pain. Like if somebody asks you to run 14 miles and you don't have joint pain, it's one thing. But if you've got to run 14 miles with 50 pounds of rocks on your back, and every step you take, there's a sharp pain in your right knee, that takes a different type of endurance. And for
Yeah.
me, that's mental and emotional endurance.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that I talked to a lot of people that were struggling with running. You would find real quick that once they got out of breath and it was almost like they panicked because they couldn't breathe. Right. And it's not normal. That's not a normal reaction for your body to have, is to be so out of breath and out of winded. And your brain's going to tell you need to stop. You're
Yeah.
overexerting yourself. And to be able to push past that, you need to have a similar type of resiliency in your mind to push through it, knowing you're okay and still able to keep moving.
Yeah, and David Goggins is like the epitome of that, right? He's like, if I'm on a treadmill and I get to mile 14 and my body says, okay, I think we're done, I run an extra 5 miles, right? Like, to
Yeah.
be able to push yourself outside of the demand of an institution, that's a whole nother skill set, right?
Yeah. Yep. So how long were you in the Navy?
I was in the Navy from what I went September 18th, 1988, until January or February 1997.
Okay. So I came in 94. 97 was Desert Storm-ish, 97, 98, somewhere around there. And Bosnia and those lovely Croatian countries over there.
Yeah.
It was a time in the Army for me. When I came in, it was a 9-to-5 job. There was not much going on in 94. Democrats were in office, so a lot of details and doing stupid stuff that contracts weren't paying for. I did. A lot of people asked what it was like, and it's changed so much since then that people just don't understand how the Army was ever a 9-to-5 job. You could set your watch by it, when your training cycles were, what time you were getting off work. I mean, all these things, and it all changed after 9/11.
Yeah.
What was an average day like in the SEALs back then?
What's an average day? Well, there were 2 days. There was the work day, and then there was the nightlife. And when we were deployed, would be different because our forward operating base was in the South Pacific, and I was at SEAL Team 5. So SEAL Team 5, every team has like a team like nickname. So SEAL Team
Yep.
1 is Stalag 1 because they're like, we're the first SEAL team, and we're rigid and strict, and if you're going to represent us, we do it by the letter. There's that whole idea. You got Team 3, which was a desert team. You got SEAL Team 5, which is a foul weather team, which they called Team Hollywood. Right. So the guys at Team 5 typically had longer hair, and they wore their favorite ball cap to work. It was a very relaxed environment. It was the best situation for me. SEAL Team 1 would have been too much. And you're at work at probably 6:45, And then depending on what you're working on that week, so let's say it's jump week, you know, you're probably getting off. Well, you got night jumps, right? So you could be getting home at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And if you're doing, diving, you got to dive in the morning, you got to dive at night. So the interesting thing is our job, because we use the element of surprise as a key factor when we are approaching an operation. Most of what we're doing is after the sun sets. And so you have to work in an environment, right? Like
Yeah.
it's diving during the day is very different than diving at 10 p.m.
Oh, I can imagine.
And we're using, very specialized apparatuses in order to allow us to stay cloaked and clandestine.
Mm-hmm.
And so late nights, early mornings, depending on what we're doing, but mostly late. And then, of course, the chief is going to say, hey, I've been working the guys a little too hard. Maybe we'll take off on Friday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, take a long weekend. It's Memorial weekend. It falls on a Monday. Have a good time, relax, try not to get in trouble. Right. But when we were at work, we were working.
Yep.
And the good thing is, when you go through SEAL training, you're trained to work like that. So if you're not working, you're going to be getting in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent 10 years on the Army side with the 160th, and it was similar to that as well. Not quite as relaxed, when we were home, we did have to shave and so forth. But, the thought process was real similar, a lot of first name basis, a lot of, rank really didn't matter. If you were an E8 and you were standing next to a job that needed to be done, you did it, that whether that's loading, pallets for deployments or whatever, you just took your shirt off and you picked up your job and you did it. And it was expected from the highest to the lowest was the same way. Rank didn't get you out of work. You were expected to be part of that team. And
it's one of the things I miss.
Yeah, me too. I do too. Those 10 years that I spent was probably the best years of my military career. That's, also where all the deployments came from. After 9/11, we stayed busy as just about everybody else. But I would go back in a heartbeat. It was a unit I wish I never left. And when I left, I had decided at that point I was retiring. So, but I miss it. In the civilian world, you don't see anything like that community. Nothing.
Yeah. I just love the teamwork and I love the pride in a job well done.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. So when you got to the end of your career, right, and you decided you were getting out, what was that transition like?
It was an interesting transition for me. I had a guy at SEAL Team 2 that wanted to come to SEAL Team 5 who was from the West Coast. I was from the East Coast, and I wanted to go to SEAL Team 2 so I could, on the weekends, could go home and spend time with my family and friends. And SEAL Team 2 was going to pay for all of his effects to be shipped to SEAL Team 5. Mm-hmm. And then when I went to SEAL Team 5, expecting the same kind of generosity, they were like, nope, you're leaving SEAL Team 5. That's what you want to do. You're going to pay for all of it to go out there. And then I said, well, look, they're paying for his stuff. And they were like, nope, well, we're not paying for yours. And I thought, you know what? I've got 90 days leave on the books. They're investing in him. They're not investing in me. I haven't gotten the good schools that I wanted at SEAL Team 5. I got all what I call the crappy schools. And you know what? I just don't think they're going to invest in me. Is this the environment that I want to be in any longer? And I thought, nope, not at all. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if you can't show up and show me the same kind of generosity, and consideration, then I don't think I need to be here any longer. And that's when I switched. So within those 90 days, I just already started preparing myself to be out of the military. And then Christmas vacation came. I took my leave. I had 90 days on the books. I sold, I think, 70 back to the military, picked up a big check, and decided I was going to go back to college and get into track and field and start training my body. I created a new goal. I wanted to make it to the Olympic trials. I knew I had the work ethic. I just didn't realize I no longer had the body. I had a
Yeah.
body built for grunt work, not a body built for speed and sophistication anymore when it comes to being athletic. And, I made the mistake of applying the principles of the SEAL teams and SEAL training to athletic training. And I ended up with a bunch of overuse injuries and a lot of frustration.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand, that training in the military, you're training for a set criteria
Yeah.
that benefits the machine, that
Yeah.
they're training you to do what they want you to do. And I'm talking physically, I'm not talking about mental. I'm just saying physically, they don't want a SEAL that is 350 pounds solid muscle, because he's going to get exhausted, especially
Yeah.
in today's world where you're up in the mountains. They want a light, mobile, strong fighter, and you don't have to be huge to do that. A lot of the SEALs I worked with had that kind of physique. They were strong as hell, but they weren't 6'4" and 320 pounds either. They were lean and strong endurance and mental resiliency. And when you get out now, that mission has changed and the criteria had to change. So it does make sense of what you're saying as far as with the overuse injuries and so forth. How did you work through those?
How did I work through those? The truth is, I didn't. Right? I didn't work through them. I didn't wake up quickly enough. I
Okay.
continued to keep applying the same strategy, and my injuries kept changing. And I just eventually had so much pain in my body that I had to reach out and ask someone for help. And that's when one of my buddies who was in the SEAL teams and in SEAL training around the same time that I was brought a yoga mat and a juicer to my house and introduced me to stretching and soft tissue detoxification, which was a wake up call, because in that moment I thought I was a healthy person. And I
Yeah.
realized that no, I'm fit, but I'm actually toxic and stressed. And I didn't have the language at the time for stressed. I just
Yeah.
knew that he was fit and he was healthy, and I was fit and I was the opposite. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because I thought I was doing all the things that you should be doing. And the truth is, I wasn't doing near enough of what I needed to be doing. And of course, I never reached or attained my goal. I got a different goal instead, because once I started opening up my body, reducing the stress, reducing the tension, detoxifying, all the symptoms that I had, they went away. And then at one point, I got my body to where it was really, really healthy. And I thought, okay, I'm going to push the envelope again physically. And I woke up one morning and I just heard the voice, and the voice was like, you put all this energy and effort into putting your body back together. You feel great. You're a reflection of health in every way you can think of. Do you really need to get to the Olympic trials to prove that you have value? And I looked in the mirror and I thought, no. And I retired that day
Yeah.
from being an athlete. I was like, yeah, I'm done. That doesn't have any value for me. And then I thought, well, what could I do with my life? And I said, there must be other people out there who are suffering from the same limiting beliefs that I had. And I started working with people. I started helping them use the tools that I used on myself. to get myself free from the pain that I was in, whether it was emotional pain, whether it was psychological pain, whether it was physiological and structural pain. I helped a lot of people. And that felt better than it did looking for glory.
Yeah.
And I knew I made the right decision.
Yeah, I think, that's one thing that I hope all my listeners take from all my episodes is if you're looking for peace, then you've got to find it when you get put on the path that you were meant to be on. Stop focusing on what you think you want and start looking at what you were meant to do. And when you find it, you'll know it. You're not going to be able to just say, oh, I was meant to do this and then go start doing it. But eventually you're going to find that path. And for me, I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And when I got out of the military, I started a trucking company. And, I didn't realize what PTSD was at that point. And I didn't understand how healthy I was putting myself into being in a truck for 6 weeks at a time by myself, driving for 11 hours a day, sitting in my head, thinking all the time. And, I just hated it, but I thought that's what I was supposed to be, was an entrepreneur. And, I didn't even care what the business was. I just wanted to say I owned a business, and I thought that's what was going to make me happy and make life all better. Since then I have, retired. I do this full time. I run my nonprofit full time, and I make a lot less money, but I'm tremendously happy. I wake up every day looking forward to what I'm going to do that day. And, I could never say that before, there was a lot of things I missed from my transition. I missed being responsible for soldiers and taking care of them and mentoring them and helping them through the mistakes that I made, that every young soldier is going to make. And, those were all gone. And I learned real quick that the civilian world didn't have any of that. That every CEO I can think of has got a book wrote by a Navy SEAL on leadership, but they read it like a Bible. They pick and choose out of it what they think they need just to make more money, make the company more profitable. And they forget about all that, what they're really talking about is putting your people in front of you, putting your thoughts into them, and mentoring them and helping them. I don't mean, not punishing, not handing out disciplines when it's needed, but stop focusing on the end of the mission, but how you're going to get there. And that comes from taking care of people. And I'd never seen that in the civilian world very much.
Yeah. The investing into others.
Yep.
Right. Is important. For me, it's essential part of being happy.
Yeah.
And I mentor people. I have a group that I've been mentoring for the last 7-8 years, and I love it. It brings me a lot of joy to share what I have to help make their lives better. What could be more important? Like, that whole idea of reach one and teach one. And I think going to Milton Hershey School, that really set that up for me, because you're in a student home. You got 15 other boys and 2 house parents and, their children, and you got chores, and the faster you get done your chores together collectively, the sooner you can go out and play. Hide and go seek, basketball, t-ball, football. And so I looked at Milton Hershey School was offered an opportunity. They were mentoring me, even though at that age I didn't want to be mentored, right? I wanted to sort of be left alone to figure things out on my own. Yet I relate to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. People, I think it's part of the healing process, to be honest, because so many people that fight through these problems find themselves serving others when they come out on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, it's very therapeutic to help others. I want to dig into a little bit about your process, because there was a part that you said earlier that I'm not familiar with, something about tissue.
Yeah.
what exactly does that consist of?
Yeah. So when you look at soft tissue, we're talking about muscles. Everybody knows that word. But then there's
Yep.
another soft tissue, which is what wraps around muscle called fascia. And fascia is quite like it's analogous to a wetsuit. It's like
Okay.
wetsuit material, right? Have you ever been in a wetsuit?
I have.
You have, right? So you know how it's snug.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that fascia is applying that snugness to all of your muscles. It's called connective tissue. And so when your connective tissue gets really thick, dense, and short, what happens is you lose a lot of range of motion. Now you're able to conserve energy, you're able to conserve heat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What the problem is that it makes it easier for your knee to feel compressed, your shoulder to feel compressed, your neck to feel restricted, your back to feel tight. And so all that stress that I was experiencing in SEAL training physically and physiologically from all the cold water was making all of my fascia really dense and thick for a very good purpose. It was doing everything that it could to conserve heat so that I could maintain 98.6 degrees as a coherent body temperature to keep physiologically healthy. And so that body that I had built in the military put a lot of damage into all of the soft tissues, ligaments, tendon, bone. You could consider bone hard tissue, but I consider it soft tissue, fascia, and muscle. And so what you put in takes an equal amount of time to take out.
Yeah.
So I put it in for 7+ years, and I needed 7+ years to take it out of my body and get the fascia so that it was thin and it was long and it was no longer constricting my muscles. And then my body felt free. And then my
Yeah.
mind felt free. And as my body got more open, my emotions opened more. As my emotions opened more, my spirit opened more. As my spirit opened more, my mind opened more. And I just did everything I could every single day to open everything up just a little bit more. And day after day after day after day, you do that for 7 years every day for hours at a time. And then eventually you have a body that feels good. And I always have noticed in myself, when I feel good, I do good. When I feel
Yeah.
bad, I do bad. And I think, it's a generalization, but I think philosophically that rings true for most people.
Yeah.
And when I open my body and I open my mind and I open my spirit, I got to walk away from managing my stress with alcohol. I got to
Yeah.
walk away from managing my stress with sugar. I got to walk away from managing my stress with excessive exercise. And then suddenly I no longer needed to manage my stress because I had resolved it successfully.
So what does the day look like that you said that you're spending hours throughout the day, but what does that look like as far as if somebody was trying to do the same things? What are
Yeah,
the process that they need to do?
well, it's easy for them now because, before I was born, the tools that I'm using in the way that I'm using them, they didn't exist. Right. So it took me, after investigating for what, decade and a half, flying all around the world, meeting with people, teaching me this and teaching me that, and then me applying it. It took years for me to figure out how to turn it into a science. And what I mean by a science is I could produce predictable outcomes regardless of the circumstances. And the outcomes were repeatable and they were verifiable. So that fits the standard law of science, right?
Yep.
Is the thing that you're doing producing predictable results? Is it verifiable and is it repeatable by anyone?
Yep.
And so I turned it into a science. So no one ever needs to go through everything that I went through in order to get to where I got 7 years down the road. They could get there in a relatively short amount of time. And so I understand the implicate order of true transformation.
Okay. so let's dive into your process then. You know, you
Okay.
take on a new client. What are the first steps that they're going to do?
Yeah. The very first step is they need to read the book Free for Life.
Okay.
And the reason for that is really, I don't care if they read it, but what they need to have is they need to have some investment, right? If you're not vested,
Yep.
at least with your time or your energy or some of your money, typically humans, from my experience of humans, they don't move any further down the road. And I really don't want to spend my time on the phone wasting my time.
Yep.
So you have to spend $24 or $25 to get a book. You got to spend 3 or 4 hours of time to read it. And if you're willing to do those two things, I'm willing to get on the phone with you and have a conversation that could potentially lead to us working together. But at the very least, me hearing what's going on for you and me being able to guide you towards somebody who might be able to offer you some help. Right.
Okay.
But the first step of what we're doing is you have to be vested. You got to jump through 2 hoops. If you're not willing to jump through those 2 hoops, I'm not willing to spend any time on you because I know the time is going to be wasted. And you know, as you're getting older, time is the second most valuable commodity that any human has.
Yeah.
Right. The first, obviously, is unconditional love. Right. So, or we could say that differently, their relationship through God. Right.
Yep.
And the betterment of themselves. Those are the 2 most important commodities. After we have a conversation, they say, hey, look, I would like to come see you. I go, okay, look, I would love to help you, but I think you need time to process. Like you said yes just a little too quickly for me. Let's talk in a week. I'll send you a welcome packet. You read through it. Let's have a conversation again and see if this is something that you really want to do. Because I need to know that they're going to read through the welcome packet.
Yeah.
Because if they do, they're going to have questions, right? And if they have questions, then I know, they're a little more vested. And for me, it's you have to be vested intensely because the work that we're going to do is going to be very, very intense. And it's also a filter for me. It allows me to figure out if this person is serious or not. And then, we take the step. They fly out to California, or they fly to meet me in Thailand, or they fly to meet me in Hawaii, or they fly to meet me in Boston, depending on where I'm at. And we get into it for 5 days straight, Monday through Friday. I'm seeing them twice a day, and we're stripping away some layer of them that's not them, right? So some people come in because they got a difficult relationship with their mom.
Yeah.
Some people come in because they want to be a better coach, right? Some people come in because they want to win a world championship. Some people come in because they want to be an Olympic champion. Some people come in because they want to make more money. Everyone's motivation is different, but the strategy is always the same. Let's just strip away what's not you. And the question is, what truly is the opposite of who they are? And what it is the generational tension coming from at least 7 generations deep, right? The limiting beliefs, the inner deficiencies, and the insecurities that they pick, and the fears they picked up from their parents. Those are the things that are limiting us in terms of being successful at whatever they want to be successful at, whether it's to be the best guitarist in the world, the best pianist, whatever's in their way has come from their childhood.
Yeah.
And if people start to understand that, they start to go, oh, okay, I get it. So you're saying that when I was in a precognitive state of function, I made up things about reality that were false, that are in my way as a 47-year-old adult, that are causing my marriage to fall into the tank and be ripped apart by the insecurities, the fears, the limiting beliefs, and inner deficiencies that my parents never overcame. And I'm going, yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And so when you look at humans, you have to understand that between womb and 13 years old, they're either in a subconscious precognitive state of function between womb and 7, or an unconscious precognitive state of function between 7 and 13 years old. Humans don't become cognitive until they're 13, and the charge in the water molecules changes from negative to positive. So they shift from being a receptive agent to being an initiating agent. And they need the confidence to go out into the world and make mistakes so that they can learn, right? Like without mistakes, like if you're avoiding mistakes, there's no way you're ever going to be really successful.
Yeah.
So when they come in and they sit down in the chair and they're sitting in front of me, we do like a 2-hour investigation and figure out, well, why are you really here? I know you said that you came here because you want to have a better relationship with your wife. Maybe that's the bait, the hook that God gave you in order to get you in the chair. But I want to know why you're really here. And then once we start investigating them, we figure out why they're really there, and we set a clear intention. And then once they set that intention, I do all the body work, all the energy work, all the emotional work necessary in order to separate them from the inner deficiencies, the insecurities, the limiting beliefs, and the fears they picked up from their parents, so they can now take an emotional risk that will produce a very profound result in terms of moving their life forward in the direction that they wanted to move forward.
Yeah. For me, I have learned that trauma isn't just what you encounter, right?
Yeah.
Trauma is passed down through your ancestry.
Amen.
Traumas that happened to your parents and your grandparents that were left unresolved are going to pass down into the younger generations.
Yep.
And at some point, something traumatic in your life, you may never know it up to that point, but something traumatic in your life happens. And all of a sudden, all these little other things that you didn't know about pop up with them. And it becomes a block party of trauma that you have to deal with. You weren't invited. You didn't want to be there, but here we are. And so it does make sense that a lot of people would think, hey, I'm just going here to get help because I want to run faster or I want to be a champion, and leave saying, man, my problems had nothing to do with my goals. It was all these other problems that was stopping me from achieving these goals.
Yeah.
And so that makes perfect sense to me. Is this process considered like because I've really gotten into a lot of like breathing techniques and a little bit of I'm starting to look at meditation and stuff to help deal with stress and ways that we can implement things for our soldiers as they're training up for combat that they can use to help kind of prevent some of these traumas. Is this similar to what we're talking about when they come to meet you and they start that work?
Look, how would I say it? Like most of that stuff is like if you compared it to transportation, right? Most of the systems that are out there, because they're not doing them all together, they're doing it separate. Either person is focused purely on breath work, or they're focused purely on meditation, or they're focused purely on fitness. The thing is that all of these systems, they need to synthesize together to produce a more whole, complete result. And so what we do, because there's 10 stages and 10 steps, and each step feeds into the other step, you need to do all of it. Like breath work is great, but breath work alone is not nearly as effective as breath work and meditation. Like breath work and meditation together is great, but once you start adding body work and mastery around movement to it, now the changes become exponential. Right. And for me, I want to make sure that we produce the greatest impact possible. So we're using all of these things together, but in the correct order. The first thing you have to do is you have to turn on both hemispheres of the brain electrically. There must be a piezoelectrical response to a ganglion of nerves that sits right behind this part of your head here, to turn on the brain, both hemispheres, left and right, so that both sides of the body can relax and come into coherence. That's first step.
Yeah.
Then we've got to turn on all the emotional intelligence, which is held in psoas major and psoas minor and the iliacus. Okay, we gotta turn that part of the body on, and then we have to strip out all the excessive stress sitting in the master channel, which runs up and down the entire back of your body, so that so we can tonify and strengthen all of your systems. We can strengthen your diaphragm, your vision, and your breath, and your analysis. We have to do all that. So that's, we're just 4 sessions in. And then I have to be able to teach you how to do all of that to yourself. So now you're on a program and you're tethered, and someone's helping you hold yourself accountable for at least 90 days while you build a new lifestyle and a new relationship with food, a new relationship with sleep, a new relationship with movement, a new relationship with energy, a new relationship with your spirit, and a new relationship with God. And so that's a tongueful, but it's deep and intensive.
Yeah, because I think that makes sense. And I never really thought about it till just listening to what you were saying. There's a lot of what you're doing is focusing on strengthening each of the pillars of life that you need.
Yes.
And
that's the perfect language.
And a lot of people, when they look at that, they say, okay, my weak pillar is faith. So they go out there and they just focus on building their faith. But at the same time, if you strengthen your left knee, your right knee is going to give out. You've got to strengthen all of the pillars, not just focus on the ones that you want to focus on or the ones that you think that you're needing the most help on.
Exactly.
So yeah, that makes sense. And then the next step is just learning what processes work to do those. And that's where getting with somebody like yourself that you can walk them through the stages and teach them these steps to come out with a strong foundation to be able to handle anything in the future that's going to come at them, and apply it to more goals. You won your national championship, but now maybe you want to be a top rated TEDx speaker or something like that. And you can apply those same goals to your new goals, or your same tactics as your new goals that you want to go for. So it makes perfect sense. It definitely doesn't sound easy, but it does make sense.
No, it's an intensive, and there's for a lot of people, it doesn't matter whether they're a 340-pound offensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, or they're a 5'2" single mother with 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
The tears are going to come, right? There's going to be pain moving out of your body. And I like the word that you used, is that you will become more resilient. And once you're resilient, it doesn't matter what environment you step into, you're resilient. But as long as you have a massive amount of tension, a massive amount of unresolved stress, a massive amount of emotional, structural, or psychological distortion, it's going to be very difficult for you to be resilient at any one thing.
Yeah.
And that's why when people when they transition from goal to goal with the people that I work with, they're guaranteed to have success.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you're saying here is a direct result of why over the 20-year war that we just had, so many soldiers get to that breaking point. There's no catch at these levels where somebody could catch you and say, hey, I see this happening. Let's work on this. Let's fix this now before it becomes too big of a problem. And I think the reason for that is because we talk about resiliency in the military, but we don't practice it.
No.
We don't train it. We don't teach it. We don't talk about any of these steps that and implement them in our training. We believe that if there isn't any pain from what you're doing, you're not getting anything out of it. So if you can run 20 miles, but it doesn't hurt, well, then put a ruck on your back and run 20 miles.
Yeah.
And those aren't necessarily going to make you handle the psychological resiliency that you're going to need after years of trauma.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's interesting because the military and sports is the one place where you see a lack of resilience. And you're basically just using up your body till it can no longer perform. And then you retire, whether you retire from basketball or you retire from the army. It's the same exact strategy, like ownership. So if you're a Laker and you retire at 40, if you could play at the same level that you could when you were 30, you wouldn't retire at 40. You'd keep playing.
Yeah.
If you were in the military and you felt as good at 45 as you did, if you felt as good as you did at 25 when you were 45, well, guess what you do? You'd continue to keep serving in the military. But the truth is, people don't.
Yeah.
They feel bad, and then they got to get away from the thing that's making them feel bad. And I think with your insight, what they should be focusing on is, what do I need to do in order to become physiologically, structurally, psychologically, emotionally, and energetically resilient, so that when I wake up in the morning, I pop out of bed inspired and present. I never feel tired. I never feel exhausted. And I am absolutely capable to show up and serve, to whatever service it is, whether it's you're going on a mission and you're part of the LDS community, and you're in East Africa, or you're an NFL football player and you're a defensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, or you're a GM for the Lakers. Like, whatever your interests are, you should be able to be resilient. And every single year, your body, your mind, and your emotions should be improving. And that's never happening. And I think that's part of the reason why God put me on earth, is to be able to build out these systems so that anyone who wanted to continue to expand and experience their potential connection for love and service could continue to feel better and better every single day. I serve more, I feel better.
Yeah.
But we get used up and thrown into the corner.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to put you in contact with the Bengals' offensive and defensive line, because they're not mentally or physically resilient. So they need a lot of help.
Oh, it would be easy. Literally. I have been instrumental in helping Penn State. Like, when I got to Penn State wrestling, they were winning championships, right? Like the coaching staff, all that, they have all the systems in place. But then when I got there and started implementing these other things that they didn't understand, I don't even think they even knew the impact of what I was doing. They were winning NCAA championships by 100 points.
Wow.
Right? Like, it's one thing to win by 4 or 11 or even 25. But you could split Penn State's wrestling team into 2, and they would still win the NCAA championship.
Wow.
Right? So I made them ridiculously resilient to the pace that no one that I worked on consistently every year ever was injured and unable to complete their season. Every single person that I worked on and I helped completed every single season. And there's only one person on the team that got injured for the rest of the season. And he was the one person that I didn't help.
Wow.
Because of that word, the work that we do, True Body Intelligence, helps you become resilient. And no matter what the level of stress is, however deep or broad the stress load is, you will wake up the next day refreshed and present and ready to go again.
Wow. Yeah. Man, this conversation's been deep, Chris. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people that these processes could help, because I am a believer in this, and we're going to talk after the show, but man, there's a lot of good information that you're laying down here that I think people need to become more aware of, just by simply learning some of the stuff yourself and seeing what these individual things do, and the sciences behind them, just behind breathing techniques, right? You look at, because there's people out there that's all they preach. They just preach breathing techniques, right? But that doesn't mean everybody else that teaches the other stuff that you're talking about is wrong, right? So if you start looking at each element and the success that stories that those little elements have, imagine what happens when you put those elements together.
That's it.
And now you have compounded your interest and everything else to add to the savings of your body. And so I think it makes perfect sense, man.
Yeah, I just look at God and I think, look, God gave us these really beautiful, wonderful bodies. Man, how do I honor God with what He gave me? I take care of this thing, like it's a newborn baby. If I can do that, Spirit is going to see that I care, and it's going to give me greater opportunities to care for it with even greater, deeper, more profound ways.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I'm going to bring you forward, brother, and let you tell everybody, how they can find you, how they can learn more, where they can get your book, and learn a little bit about your process, and make sure that this is what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who's listening, you can go to truebodyintelligence.com, and there's going to be a little bit of information about stress and all that stuff that you've heard before. And my book is going to be there, Free for Life, a U.S. Navy SEAL's Path to Inner Freedom, Outer Peace. And if you're willing to spend the time reading that, I'm willing to spend the time, coaching you for free and giving you some insight and some direction that I think could be really profound and helpful for you. If you go to Instagram, you can punch in True Body Intelligence. If you go to YouTube, you can punch in True Body Intelligence. All you have to do is punch in those 3 words and you'll be able to find me in some way. And, there's a free podcast series that I did, 20 episodes, where you can listen and start to understand what it takes to create a true transformational experience. And you don't have to go through that with me. I give you the keys where you can seek all that information out on your own. And so I'm here and I'm ready to serve powerfully.
All right. Well, I hope all of you guys that are listening to this show, as always, I hope you get something out of it. There was a lot of information, a lot of great stuff here that, these breadcrumbs that we're laying down could lead you to a great path. So, start picking them up and following them, and, do some research and improve your foxhole every single day. I mean,
yes, improve your foxhole every single day.
That's the key to life, man. So I hope all of y'all enjoyed it. I want all of you to remember, be safe. I know after you watch this show, it'll be way after it, but we're getting close to Veterans Day. So for me, every day is Veterans Day. I like to brag about the veterans because of, we're 1%ers and who knows, I'm going to even say we're even better than the other 99. So I want all of y'all to take care, be safe, and don't forget, don't let the day kick your ass. Kick the day's ass.
Yes.